Greetings guys and gals, this is ZerO bringing you the best in SC Gaming. Today we have SKT1 versus Woongjin Stars Ace match, ZerO versus Fantasy, played on the 8th of December on Grand Line SE. And I'm actually pretty surprised they put up Fantasy, while Fantasy is K-Spa ranked ahead of Bisu. You know, he's ranked 5th. Bisu, I believe, is ranked 7th or something like that. I'm really surprised that they put out Fantasy because earlier Bisu did win against ZerO, and also it seems as though Bisu, I believe, is like 13-1, and Fantasy is like 10-3 or something like that. So Bisu actually has a lot better comparatively win ratio. And you know, if they were gonna put up ZerO, ZerO is very good as well. I believe ZerO is K-Spa ranked 6th or something like that, so just ahead of Bisu. But Bisu has a very good PVZ, so they could, you know, you can probably guess that they're gonna put out someone like ZerO possibly. And you know, I wonder why they didn't put Bisu up, but instead they put up Fantasy, which is kind of surprising. Anyways, it looks like ZerO is going to be playing at the top left as the green Zerg, and Fantasy is going to be playing as the Terran player at the right hand side in yellow. Overlord Scout going in the right direction, and we're going to have to see what kind of tech ZerO goes for, because this is really kind of change the gameplay, whether he goes for an early 9 pool, tries to get some lings out, or something like a 12 hatch, more econ build, something like that. And what Fantasy goes is very important as well. If he goes like 1 racks into CC, or early mech build, medic marine, you know, SK Terran, anything like that. It looks like we probably had a 9 pool out for ZerO, which means he's probably going to be able to put some early pressure, or it could have been an overpool. Actually, I'm going to assume that's an overpool because it does look like there's an overlord going in the southern direction. So I'm going to assume that he just put down an overpool, and here comes the hatchery. No gas yet for the Terran player, so I'm assuming 1 racks into CC, which means medic marine play. But we're, you know, he could go for something kind of unstandard and a little bit different, like you know, Cal has gone, and who was it? Who was the Zerg player? Yeah, it was actually ZerO. So ZerO went for that kind of unstandard play versus Bisu, going for 3 hatches at the top left on Aztec, I believe. Not sure if it was Aztec, but he went for 3 bases on his second expansion for some reason, 3 hatcheries, and that was really weird. Zerglings are now out for ZerO, so he's going to be able to do some harassment, probably going to get those Zerglings out very early. Fantasy is just now sending out his SCV scout. These Zerglings might be able to pick off that scout. They are going to try to do that. No, they don't. They change their mind and go straight for the base, and you know, Fantasy is going to have to try to defend this. This Overlord's not going to be able to get picked off by that 1 Marine. Drone going up towards the north position. It looks like he's setting down his expansion at the natural, and also going for an in-base hatch, so not going a double expansion like we see players go so much versus Protoss. He's going to be going for that 3rd in-base hatch, so going to open up with a 3-hatch build here, attacking that supply depot just a little bit. SCV is pulling off the line to repair. Oh, Mike, an SCV kill. Does get an SCV kill. That SCV got trapped in between the supply depot and the barracks. Very good there. Only 1 Marine out for Fantasy, and so he's going to have to try to defend this with his 2 SCVs and 1 Marine. That Marine's going to be very protected, though, as the blockade there works very well for Fantasy. And Extractor going up for ZerO, so he's going to try to get some gas up. And he really needs to get his economy booming because he did not go for a double expansion. No SCVs currently on the gas, which is kind of peculiar. He's probably going to go 1 racks into CC. He does go 1 racks into CC. Just wanted to get his refinery because that CC was delayed by that Zergling attack. And now we see a creep colony going up at the front for a little bit of defense for the Zerg player. So you know, pretty much standard, and we're gonna go into the mid game here. Nothing too early, not too early rushes or anything. Probably gonna see medic marine play from Fantasy, and although well, yeah, we're gonna see medic marine play, probably academy going up as well. So definitely gonna be able to get some medics out, firebats if he really wants them, as well as his comsat station, which is gonna be very effective versus those lurkers. Eventually, he's probably gonna go for science vessels, is what I'm assuming. Layer going on at the natural, which means that that hatchery, or that base, I guess you could say, is going to be just that much stronger, and it's going to be a little bit harder to snipe because it does have those extra hit points. It's going to be a little bit harder for Fantasy to try to snipe that base there at the natural. Hopefully, though, if if ZerO goes for a Spire, he's not going to put it right in front of his base like he did against Beast, and he's putting his Hydralisk Den up there. That's pretty standard, though. Usually players don't put their Spire up. That Spire is just, you know, so important and takes so long to build. The Hydralisk Den does not take nearly as long to build. It looks like Fantasy's base is up and running. But yeah, last time he put that Spire up right in front of his base, and as Moltrap said, that was just a really bad decision because it got picked off by those speed lots, and pretty much lost him the game because he wasn't able to make any more Mutalisk, which was really unfortunate to him. That layer is still not morphed in. Probably going to be morphed in anytime soon, but it looks like Fantasy is coming in for attack here. SCV Scout trying to, you know, kind of scout out the area, make sure he knows exactly what kind of tech that ZerO is going for. Spire going up and the main this time. Nice job, ZerO, of learning your lesson the first time. Although you did have to learn it the hard way, losing to Bisu. First medics are out. 3 Marines are able to deter that Zergling Scout, so that Scout isn't going to get in the base, and this SCV might be able to get away, is able to avoid the surround for the time at least. 2 drones kind of just being idle, which is very peculiar there, and he really is just trying to arc these Marines. Spires going up in the mix as well, not going to be able to do a whole lot, and looks like he's going to go for some lurkers, is what I'm assuming, and Zergling's Zergling's running in there, getting picked off, gonna have to retreat, and I'm assuming that ZerO is probably gonna have to put up some more sunken colonies because he doesn't have the critical force to deal with this. He really has nothing. Oh man, what is he doing? The Spire's not up. He doesn't have any Hydralisk out, and this Medic Marine push is gonna be very hard to defend. He has a SCV in the mix as well. 2 Firebats gonna be joining up in the army momentarily, and so these creep colonies are gonna be so important, but he's really not gonna be able to do too much. These 7 Zerglings, or however many there aren't going to be able to do a whole lot, and he does turn around and fire at them for a little while. More forces streaming in. Oh my gosh, ZerO is in a ton of trouble, man. He doesn't have anything really to defend against this. Only 3 sunken colonies at the front and a handful of Zerglings. One of the Zerglings getting picked off. This is really bad for him. I can't see how he's going to be able to defend this. It looks like an SCV is going to that bottom left, might be going for another base. These Firebats need to be very careful not to get picked off. The Zerglings are trying to run by, it looks like, and he's retreating. I don't know why he's retreating, man. Now the Mutalisks are out, and he's lost kind of his chance to do some damage here, drastically building some missile turrets, trying to defend against this air attack, and I think that he's going to be building these missile turrets just in time. There are a lot of Mutalisks. I'm assuming that there are 9 Mutalisks, 3 for each hatchery. And ZerO is currently at 2 bases, and the Terran is at 2 bases, and as a Zerg player, especially in Starcraft 1, that's not where you want to be. You want to be at least 1 base up on the Terran player, if not 2, to keep up with his economy, because, you know, your saturation is not going to be as good as you are going to have to go between pumping out units and pumping out drones. So you really want to be at least 3 bases when the Terran is at 2, if not 4. Here comes more Mutalisks coming in, trying to go in the front, going to be deterred by that bunker and that missile turret here. Hydralisks are now in the field, probably going to be morphing into lurkers anytime soon. Queen's Nest going up, so we're going to see some layer tech, I'm assuming, or maybe it's going to be like Hogil, I believe's mass queens, which epically failed. He didn't do anything with them. He didn't use them at all. But we did see them nonetheless. Looks like another base is going up, probably, I'm assuming, at that bottom left-hand corner. So he is going to be at 3 bases momentarily. Looks like Fantasy is moving out with some of his Medic Marine forces, and those Hydralisks moving down to the southern position as well. Don't know what they're doing there. Might be morphing in at that southern position, trying to keep the tech hidden, although I believe that Fantasy has scouted out this Hydralisk den, so he's obviously going to know that lurkers are coming. And I'm assuming that ZerO is going to be going Hive Tech anytime soon. It looks like he's transferring his drones to that bottom left base as well. 1 hit going off on those Marines, not able to pick off any. And, you know, pretty much we're going to see a huge push here, probably to that bottom base by Fantasy. Mutalisk getting picked off, 1 Marine getting picked off as well, but Mutalisk getting picked off, which is very worse than 1 Marine. 1 Marine for 1 Mutalisk is not an even trade there, stemming up his forces, but not able to get up that ramp. He's going to be very hard for him to get up that ramp, as those lurkers will have sight on his units a little bit before he does get up. Good positioning there by ZerO, and that Hive is morphing in, just as I was saying. Evolution Chamber going up, so he's probably going to go for some upgrades as well. I'm assuming that he's going to go for his ground melee attack +1, and probably a Carapace +1. Maybe that Carapace first even. which could be very common, especially if he's going to go for something like a Lurker, a Ling push, as that Carapace upgrade would help both of those units out. Marines getting picked off, actually just one Marine getting picked off, shots going off on those Mutalisks, not losing any Mutalisks though, doing a very nice job of microing him, but not doing too much damage really. He's just kind of dancing around, not doing a lot of harassment, not doing a lot of damage there, and you know, not too much else going on. We're going to have to wait until this Nidus Canal forms and that Defiler's Mound gets into play, because this is when the Zerg is pretty vulnerable, and this is, you know, when the Terran player can either push in or turtle up and try to macro up a little bit. He does have a science facility as well as a starport with a control tower, which means that he's going to go for some science vessels, going to need them to, you know, irradiate the Defilers as well as radiate Lurkers and, you know, spot them in the when they're burrowed, because, you know, Comsat only lasts so long. 3 Marines going down to that one attack, doing a very nice job of positioning his Lurkers, but really they're going to have to back up because of that Comsat, as well as these impending science vessels, which are going to just do so much damage to these Defilers. And really what the play comes down to is if you're able to irradiate Defilers and if you're able to irradiate Lurkers, keep your science vessels alive, keep the Scourge off of your science vessels. That is so important, because Scourge can just ruin your whole tactic. Here comes Marines, and here comes the Lurkers though, losing some Marines, losing a lot of Marines actually, but here comes Fantasy with more units, sieging up his units, and it looks like ZerO's going to have to back up. He's going to be able to contain ZerO in his base. Zerglings coming in as well, but getting picked off by the Marines. There's just not enough forces there. He's going to be able to siege on that siege line. He needs to be careful not to lose that science vessel though. That could be really critical. Here comes more Mutalisks attacking the tank, able to pick up one of the tanks off, doing a very nice job there. 3 Lurkers still in the battle, and another Lurker joins up with them, so 4 Lurkers total, 5 Lurkers actually, and Fantasy is going to have to back up here. He's going to lose that science vessel, or he's going to lose that siege tank rather, not that science vessel. He doesn't, it looks like ZerO does not have any Scourge in the area. He's Fantasy is reinforcing with more forces. Actually, he's not going to reinforce his main army. He's just going to go straight to that bottom left base and try to take out one of the bases of ZerO. Very nice job there. He's going to have to push right up that ramp though. He needs to be very careful that he's not going to lose a ton of units. He also has another group of forces probably going to join up with his force at the main and you know, keep that contain going on. He's very just committing to this Medic Marine Firebat push here. He's really going SK Terran, and the first Defiler is out. Going to be using Consume on the Zerglings. Nice irradiate there, so that Defiler is as good as dead, man. That Defiler is not going to do too much. It might get away. No, it does not. It just pops straight away, not even getting a swarm down. Swarm going on at the bottom of the ramp. These Medic Marine forces are going to have to retreat. Lurker hits going off on those Medic Marine forces, doing a lot of damage. Here comes the command center at that bottom right base, I believe. No, it's going to be at that 1 o'clock base, and that command center is going to be deterred for at least the time being. Missile turret going to be attacking those Mutalisks, and those 2 missile turrets doing a lot of damage. The Mutalisks are going to have to retreat. Now attacking the SCVs, getting, I believe, at least 3 SCV kills, doing a nice micro there. And these Medic Marine forces are just going to have to desperately kind of sit on the edge and wait for those Mutalisks to come, because they need the defense to keep his SCVs alive. Swarm going down as well at the front of ZerO's base, and he's pretty much he's stimming in and moving in here. The Firebats are obviously going to be able to do some damage. The Marines are not though, because the Marines do not do splash damage. The Firebats do. So they're going to be able to do some damage, and it looks like Fantasy is pushing up this ramp very well, but it looks like another swarm, and he's going to have to back up. Very good swarms by ZerO, and so he's going to be deterred, at least for the time being. Another base going on that 8 o'clock position. So it looks like ZerO's going to be at 4 bases and 5 hatches, I believe, and he's going to have to retreat at this bottom left position because he just does not have enough forces to deal with this. Here come Mutalisks attacking that Medic Marine forces. They back up yet again, picking off 2 of those Mutalisks, doing a very nice job of keeping his forces together. I believe if he kept all his forces together and pushed in at the front, he'd be able to do a lot of damage, maybe even switch to some siege tanks would be a good tactic as well. He's really just committing to these Marines and medics for the time being. He has 3 Lurkers at the front, putting another swarm on those Lurkers, doing a very nice job. Irradiate's going on both of those Defilers, I believe. So both of those Defilers are going to be going down. That's really bad for ZerO. He needs to keep his Defilers alive because it's just the energy. I mean, they do have Consume, but you need to keep your units alive. Defilers are not like the cheapest units to make. Like if it was Zerglings, maybe it would be a little bit different, but as it's not, he really needs to keep them alive. Looks like SCV is being transferred to that bottom right base that's being built there. Yeah, there's going to be a command center that's just now landing, and Fantasy is probably going to go in for this bottom base again, at least one of the bottom bases, try to push in, try to attack. Right now he's just going for a two-pronged attack, pretty much attacking at the north and at the south. I really don't know if this is the right play. I really think that he should probably attack you know, just in one area, in one single area, and not. I know people are gonna say, well, if he clumps up his units, you know, those lurkers can just do so much damage to those medic marine forces, as they're so fragile. Plague going on those medic marine forces. All of them are going to get picked off by those lurkers, the swarm, and the zerglings. And now there's a lot of medic marine forces out still, but I mean, that was a very good swarm, very good plague as well for science vessels at the front for fantasy. And he's just pretty much macroing up, going for factories, so probably going to switch to some mech tech is what I'm assuming pretty soon. And ZerO is just kind of being content with keeping his left side of the base. So pretty much it's the right side of the map versus the left side of the map now. And, you know, that happens a lot. But right now it looks like Fantasy is just doing so well in containing him. But ZerO is, you know, ZerO's okay to be contained because he has 4 bases up and running, man. He can really just do whatever the hell he wants. And he's probably going to go for Ultralisks pretty soon. I mean, when you're at 4 bases, you really can afford to go for Ultralisks as long as you have some good saturation and you do it at the right time. You don't want to transition into Ultras at the wrong time, because that, you know, second or the time when you make the Ultralisks to where they pop out, you're going to be really super vulnerable. And if Fantasy picks up on that, he's going to be able to do so much damage and probably win the game. Here come more forces. Swarm just now dying out, and Fantasy's forces back away anyways, and so there's going to be a ton of lurkers at the front at that southern base, and there's going to be a lot of stuff at the north as well. And so that's why I don't think Fantasy should really go for this 2 attack, man. He doesn't have enough units at either place to really put in a good push. Nice mind drag by those zerglings, able to take out that vulture. Really not economically sound though, because, you know, he had 4 zerglings there, which is 100 minerals, and those vultures only those vultures are only 75 minerals. So 25 mineral loss there for ZerO, if anyone's counting. But anyways, here comes the science vessels, gonna put an irradiate on that defiler. Defiler puts a swarm on those lurkers, going to deter Fantasy for even longer. And so we're going to see here how Fantasy is able to cope with you know, the defense of ZerO, because really he's just sitting outside the base not doing a whole lot, and ZerO can be really content and just needlessly losing the science vessel there for some dumb reason. I don't know why he just let that science vessel die. Here comes some more zerglings attacking this medic marine force, but they're going to have to retreat because that medic marine force is a little bit too strong. It looks like a drop might be going on for ZerO here. He has about 5 overlords coming into the base at the north, and not yet moving in and stimming up his forces, and coming in here might be pushing in for another attack. It looks like that's what he's doing. If there's a defiler in the mix, he's going to be able to put down a swarm, but it looks like there is not. If he's able to take out that nice canal, that's going to be so huge. Radius going off on both of the lurkers. Medic marine forces pushing in, probably going to be able to take this base out, doing a very nice job attacking. There are 5 science vessels there, so radiates are going to be able to go off on all of these units. Swarm does go down on the ramp, so it looks like Fantasy's probably gonna have to retreat for just a little while, and SKT1 might, you know, make it out of here alive yet again. They've got to a lot of ace matches recently. Before they were, you know, playing very well, not going a lot of ace matches, but, you know, SK has played a lot of ace matches with Best and Bisu, and Fantasy as of late. Fantasy has played a ton of ace matches. He played one just, you know, probably last match or the match before versus Baby, which he won. And Baby tried to use his strategy for that quick barracks, the proxy barracks. But yeah, you know, SK has been just, you know, kind of always going to the ace match, and it's really surprising as they have Best, they have Fantasy, they have Hyuk. I believe they still have Hyuk, and, you know, Hyuk used to be very, very bad, but now Hyuk is actually in the OSL round of 16, and Bisu is not, and Hyuk is just playing so well lately. You know, Hyuk is not the old Hyuk. Hyuk is the new pretty decent Hyuk. Might be able to rival ZerO in his play. You know, ZerO's always been pretty consistent, but he's never gone up above the competition, you know, never overachieved, and never really, you know, got to where he could actually win a title. He's always just been kind of a consistent player, kind of a, you know, decent player that hasn't been noticed that much. Ultra is now out in the field, and I really think that Fantasy should switch his tech to some mech, man, because those Ultras just eat eat through infantry units such as Marines. They just absolutely eat with them, especially, although this doesn't matter, especially in StarCraft 2. StarCraft 2 Ultralists are just so powerful, man. They're just, that area of effect damage is just so powerful that he's, you know, they're ridiculous. They are just absolutely ridiculous. Dropships coming in for Fantasy and probably going to drop in on this base, going to be able to take it out. Swarm going down on those Medic Marine forces, and oh my gosh, that was a huge plague. So SCVs are going to have to come in the mix pretty soon to heal these Science Vessels, man. Here comes some Scourge to try to pick off these Science Vessels, but huge plague. Fantasy is trying to keep his Science Vessels together, make sure that he doesn't get picked off, but that plague was absolutely huge. Mulus just needlessly running in here, getting picked off, and not so good micro by ZerO. It looks like he's getting a little bit overextended with all these drops that are happening in his base. Fantasy was able to take out that 9 o'clock base, might even be able to take out this 8:30 base because he's just killing drone after drone after drone. Might be able to kill an Overlord as well, and that Nexus, or not that Nexus, that Hatchery might be taken out. Medic Marine forces now in the midfield, gonna be attacked by some Zerglings, but no, the Zerglings are gonna back up, and Fantasy looks like he's just really keeping his Science Vessels in his base. Don't know why he's doing that. 4 Zerglings dying to one of those mines. Huge plague again going off on all those Marines, and if he had some forces to, you know, follow it up with, he would be able to kill off those forces very quickly. But right now he's just kind of hurting for units, kind of just streaming them in needlessly, and I don't think this is the right thing at all. I think that he needs to kind of macro up and you know, stop all the pressure, because he's really not doing that much damage to Fantasy. Fantasy's bases haven't really been harassed that much, and so he's going to be able to just kind of macro up and keep the pressure on ZerO, while ZerO needs to just macro up just a little bit and try to push out instead of, you know, just streaming in his forces, keeping the pressure on constantly, because, you know, Fantasy can do that all day. Fantasy can deal with all those forces all day. He needs to macro up and make sure that he puts in a decent effort at a huge attack instead of putting all these little attacks together. And that's why I think that Fantasy hasn't won yet also, is because Fantasy has been going for these like 2 double attacks for some reason. I don't have any inclination to why he's been doing that. A lot of Marines getting picked off by that one lurker. Not good micro there. Here comes some more Ultralists. Gonna probably get picked off, but huge play going off on all those Marines. Yet again, one of the Ultralists pops. Another one's probably gonna pop pretty soon. Another play going off on the rest of the forces, and ZerO's just going really overboard with these plagues, man. There's still a ton of Science Vessels in there, but they're gonna have to stay in that base to get repaired, at least for the time being. More Ultralists morphing in. Another Nidus Canal is morphing as well. Obviously, the Nidus Canal is a lot different than the Nidus Network. Nidus Network, you only need 1 Nidus Network to build a lot of those forces, and I believe that in StarCraft 1 you need 1 Nidus Canal for every kind of pathway you want to make, which makes it a lot more different. But now these Science Vessels are grouped up with all the forces, and really he can, you know, kind of put a radiate on each one of those Ultralists, kind of soften them up a little bit. It's obviously not going to kill them, but that looks like who he's going to do. He really needs to be careful not to lose these Science Vessels to these Scourge, though. Loses 1 Science Vessel that is able to radiate 4 of those Ultralists, doing a very nice job. 5 of those Ultralists, I believe. And Fantasy, man, move out. Get ready to attack, because he's just kind of delaying this, and I honestly believe that he's very far ahead, seeming that he's almost at even bases with the Zerg player, while the Zerg player is you know, that's just, he's playing Zerg, so if he's at even bases, you're going to be ahead. It looks like ZerO is at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 mining bases, and Fantasy's at 1, 2, 3, 4. So actually he is 1 base behind, but that is definitely okay for the Terran player. Here comes Fantasy at that southern position, going to move in, irradiating the Ultralisks, and Mulus and Scourge coming in, but I don't think they're going to be enough to deal with this. Ultra's just popping left and right, man, and there's nothing to defend that, nothing to have the swarm in, and now Fantasy is just moving in, was able to pick off the Defiler, is able to pick off all of these Zerglings, going to probably be able to pick off the Nidus Canal as well. This bottom base is going to go down, and both the mining, which is going to cut his mining virtually in half. Very bad for ZerO, and there's really nothing here to defend it. Fantasy reinforcing more forces, but he might be going for that top position. It looks like he's reinforcing to the north, so he's not going to be reinforcing any more forces in the bottom here. 4 or 5 Ultralists just popping out of nowhere, and they're just going to run Fantasy's forces all the way back. They are getting hit by these siege tanks, which is doing a lot of damage, and like I said, Fantasy did a nice job by switching his tech to mech, switching to that siege tanks, because just Marines and Marines and Firebats and Medics are just not enough to deal with Ultralists. Ultralists are just too powerful, especially with that extra armor upgrade that you can upgrade at the Ultralist Cavern. They're just absolutely too powerful for Medic Marine to combat, and so you really need those Siege Up Siege Tanks, especially with Swarm, just because the Siege Tanks still do splash damage to all the units underneath the Swarm, which is very, very effective. Here come, oh, Eraser, huge Eraser on all these drones. That is just painful to watch if you're a Zerg player. All of those drones getting killed. Oh my gosh, these Scourge really aren't doing anything. Probably should go try to attack those Science Vessels, which they do. One Science Vessel go down, two Science Vessels, 3, 4, oh wow. 4 Science Vessels getting killed there, so that is a lot of gas just being wasted there. But huge Eraser going off on all those drones, doing a very, very nice job of hurting ZerO's economy. ZerO is now only at 2 mining bases, while Fantasy is at 1, 2, 3, 3.5, I believe. So he's up in that aspect as well. This hatchery is going to go down, limit ZerO's production. It looks like ZerO's trying to build a base at the 3 o'clock position, but this is going to be found out by Fantasy, and a drop with just a few Marines is going to be able to take this out very, very easily. This hatchery is probably going to go down as well. It looks like ZerO's not going to be able to reinforce at all. Firebats are very, very effective against these Ultras. But, you know, those Ultras with those armor upgrades are just going to be able to take them out. Really, any type of infantry unit needs to be accompanied by siege tanks, like I said before, or mech units in general, just because, you know, with that hardened armor, and probably, I'm assuming, if he clicks on the units, I'm assuming that ZerO by this time has +3 on his Carapace. Those Ultralists are really, really powerful. Even with the Firebat splash damage without Storm, you know, it's going to be very hard to deal with. He really needs Marines, Firebats, and Siege Tanks in the mix here. Siege Tanks are just really really the only thing that can deal with these Ultralists, but man, not sieging up his Siege Tanks really cost him. There's just so many Ultralists, and it looks like the tide of the battle is turning, and you know, ZerO is just coming in here, wrecking all of Fantasy's units. Really bad for him. Another drop going on. Probably should focus down the Nidus Canal, which is what he's doing. Is able to pick off the base at the 6 o'clock. Is probably going to be able to pick off the base at the 9 o'clock, and GG coming from ZerO, but doing so much damage, man. It really just came down to Fantasy having more mobility than ZerO, because ZerO had those Ultralists, man, and he was just doing absolute work on all of Fantasy's siege tanks and his medic marine forces, his Firebats, pretty much everything. Fantasy winning another ace match, doing a very nice job for SKT1. He is definitely probably their ace, their key player as of yet, although Bisu's doing very well as well, and Best, Best is kind of 50-50 with me. I don't know how he's been in the games I haven't watched, but he's just kind of 50-50. So SKT1 just barely comes out ahead in this matchup over Woongjin Stars. GG, Lates.